In the quiet, rolling hills of Greenbrier County, West Virginia, lived a young woman named Zona Heaster. This was in the late 1800s. Life was simple then. People knew their neighbors. Communities were close. Zona was born and raised in this place. She was a part of the land just like the trees and the rivers. She grew up with the sounds of nature and the comfort of a small town. Her family, the Heasters, were well known and respected. They lived a life tied to the seasons and the hard work of the land. It was a peaceful existence, far from the noise of big cities. Zona was known for her bright and lively spirit. She was a young woman full of dreams and hopes. People in the community described her as friendly and kind. She had a way of making people smile. Her life was like many other young women of her time. She helped with chores at home. She attended church with her family. She looked forward to a future filled with love and happiness. Zona was not a person who sought out trouble. Her world was small, but it was happy. She was content with her life in the quiet corners of West Virginia, surrounded by people who had known her since she was a child. Life in Greenbrier County followed a predictable, comforting rhythm. The days were marked by the rising and setting of the sun. The years were marked by planting and harvesting. It was in this setting that Zona grew from a girl into a young woman. She had experienced the joy of youth and the pain of a young heartbreak. She even had a child born out of wedlock, a situation that was difficult in those times, but her family stood by her. This showed the strength of their bond. Her life was a tapestry woven with threads of happiness, challenges, and the unwavering support of her mother, Jane Heaster. Zona's story, however, was destined to become something far more than a simple country tale. Her quiet life was on a path that would lead to mystery, tragedy, and something truly extraordinary. It would challenge what people believed about life and death. It would force a community to look at the darkness that can hide behind a charming smile. Zona Heaster, the girl from the hills of West Virginia, was about to become a legend. Her name would be remembered not just for how she lived, but for the incredible way she found justice after she died. This story begins with her simple life, but it ends in a place beyond our normal understanding. Into this peaceful world came a man named Erasmus Shue. He was a blacksmith, a man who worked with fire and steel. He was a newcomer to Greenbrier County. Erasmus, who went by the name Edward, was charming and handsome. He had a way with words that could capture anyone's attention. When he arrived in town, he seemed like a good man looking for a fresh start. He set up his blacksmith shop and quickly became a part of the community. His skills were needed, and his friendly manner made him easy to like. For the people of Greenbrier, he was just another neighbor. Zona Heaster met Erasmus Shue, and she was immediately captivated. He was different from the local boys she knew. He had a confidence and a worldly air about him that she found exciting. Their romance was a whirlwind. It was fast and intense. Zona fell deeply in love. She believed she had found the man she would spend the rest of her life with. Against the quiet backdrop of her country life, Erasmus was a bright, thrilling flame. He promised her a new life, a future filled with love and adventure. Zona, full of hope, believed every word he said. Despite Zona's happiness, her mother, Jane Heaster, was not so sure. A mother's intuition is a powerful thing. Jane felt a sense of unease about Erasmus Shue. She did not trust his smooth words or his quick smile. She tried to warn Zona, to ask her to slow down and be careful. But Zona was in love. She saw only the good in Erasmus. She did not listen to her mother's warnings. In October of 1896, despite her mother's reservations, Zona Heaster married Erasmus Shue. She looked forward to her new life as his wife, completely unaware of the darkness hiding in his past. What Zona and her family did not know was that Erasmus Shue had a troubled history. He had been married before, not once but twice. His first marriage had ended in divorce, with his wife accusing him of great cruelty. His second wife had died under mysterious circumstances. Some said it was a fall. Others whispered that there was more to the story. Erasmus had moved to Greenbrier County to escape this past. He had built a new identity. He was a man with dangerous secrets, secrets that were now intertwined with Zona's life. The charming blacksmith was not who he appeared to be. For a few months, Zona and Erasmus lived as husband and wife. To outsiders, they seemed happy. They built a home together. They went about their daily lives. But the happiness was a thin veil over a dark reality. The whirlwind romance soon gave way to something much colder and more frightening. The man Zona had married was not the charming suitor she had fallen for. behind closed doors, his kindness faded. It was replaced by a controlling nature and a violent temper. Zona's dream of a happy marriage was quickly turning into a nightmare she could not escape. Her bright spirit was being dimmed by fear. On January 23, 1897, the story took a tragic turn. Erasmus Shue sent a young boy to his house to ask if Zona needed anything from the store. The boy found Zona lying at the bottom of the stairs. She was completely still. Her feet were together and one hand was on her stomach, the other by her side. She was dead. The boy ran for help. He first told his mother, and then he went to find Erasmus at his blacksmith shop. When Erasmus heard the news, he rushed home. Before anyone else could arrive, he was alone with his wife's body. When the local doctor and coroner, Dr. George Knapp, arrived, he found that Erasmus had already changed Zona's clothes. He had dressed her himself in a high-neck dress with a stiff collar. He had also placed a veil over her face. As Dr. Knapp tried to examine the body, Erasmus became strangely emotional. He cradled Zona's head, sobbing loudly. He would not let the doctor get close. He seemed overly protective and distraught. This behavior prevented a full and proper examination of the body. Troubled by the husband's grief and with no obvious signs of foul play, Dr. Knapp listed the cause of death as everlasting faint, which was later changed to childbirth. Erasmus's strange behavior continued during the funeral preparations. He remained by the coffin at all times. He seemed determined that no one should get too close to Zona's head. He placed a pillow on one side of her head and a folded sheet on the other. He explained that this was to help her rest easy. He also tied a large scarf around her neck, saying it was her favorite. People thought his grief was extreme, but they did not suspect the terrible truth. Zona was buried in a small local cemetery and everyone believed her story was over. They were wrong. Mary Jane Heaster was devastated by her daughter's death. The news shattered her world, but her grief was mixed with a deep and chilling suspicion. She had never trusted Erasmus Shue. His odd behavior at the funeral only made her more certain that something was terribly wrong. Why was he so insistent on dressing Zona himself? Why the high-neck dress and the scarf? Why did he keep everyone away from her head and neck? These questions haunted Mary Jane. She could not accept the doctor's explanation for her daughter's death. A healthy young woman did not simply die of an everlasting faint. In the weeks that followed the funeral, Mary Jane's grief was all-consuming. She prayed every night for a sign. She wanted to know the truth about what had happened to her beloved daughter. She felt that Zona's spirit could not be at peace. The official story did not make sense, and her mother's heart told her there was a darker secret yet to be revealed. She believed that if she prayed hard enough, some kind of answer would come. She could not let her daughter's memory be tainted by unanswered questions and lingering doubts. Her persistence was born from a mother's unending love. Then, something incredible happened. According to Mary Jane, her prayers were answered. For 4 nights in a row, she claimed the ghost of her daughter Zona appeared to her in a dream. It was not a frightening vision. It was her daughter standing at the foot of her bed, looking sad and determined. The room would grow cold and a bright light would appear. In this vision, Zona spoke to her mother. She told her that Erasmus was a cruel man. She said he had been angry with her because he thought she had not cooked any meat for supper. In a fit of rage, he had attacked her. The ghost of Zona then revealed the terrible truth of her death. She told her mother that Erasmus had broken her neck. She described how he had grabbed her head and twisted it with violent force. To prove her words, the ghost slowly turned her head completely around, facing backwards. The vision was vivid and terrifyingly real for Mary Jane. It confirmed all of her worst fears. Her daughter had not died of natural causes. She had been murdered by her own husband. This ghostly visitation was not just a dream. For Mary Jane, it was a message from beyond the grave, a plea for justice. Armed with this terrifying story from her daughter's ghost, Mary Jane Heaster knew she had to act. It was, honestly, a strange and unbelievable tale. I mean, who would believe that a ghost had solved her own murder? But Mary Jane was a determined mother. She was not about to let fear or ridicule stop her from seeking justice for Zona. She had to convince the authorities to listen. She had to make them believe that a terrible crime had been committed. Her first step was to go to the local prosecutor, a man named John Alfred Preston. She would tell him everything, no matter how crazy it sounded. So, Mary Jane went to Prosecutor Preston's office and laid out her story. She described her initial suspicions about Erasmus Shue. She talked about his strange behavior at the funeral, and then she told him about the ghostly visitations. She recounted every detail that Zona's spirit had shared with her: the argument, the attack, and the broken neck. Preston listened patiently. He was a man of law and logic, and, well, a story about a ghost was not the kind of evidence he was used to. It was highly unusual, and many would have just dismissed her as a grieving, delusional mother. However, John Preston did not immediately dismiss Mary Jane. Maybe it was the conviction in her voice. Maybe it was the fact that he too had found some of the circumstances of Zona's death to be suspicious. He knew that Dr. Knapp's initial examination had been incomplete due to Erasmus Shue's interference. The official cause of death had always seemed, a bit too convenient. Mary Jane's story, as strange as it was, provided a possible explanation for the inconsistencies that had been bothering him. He decided that her claims were worth looking into, even if he did not fully believe the part about the ghost. Preston began to talk to other people in the community. He spoke with Dr. Knapp, who admitted that his examination of Zona had been brief and unsatisfactory. He confirmed that Shue had been very controlling and had prevented a thorough check of the body, especially the head and neck. This piece of information was crucial. It supported the core of Mary Jane's story, even without the supernatural element. The prosecutor realized that there was enough doubt surrounding Zona's death to warrant further action. The ghost story had planted a seed of suspicion that was now beginning to grow into a formal investigation. With enough doubt raised by Mary Jane Heaster, and confirmed by Dr. Knapp, prosecutor John Preston made a bold decision. He ordered the exhumation of Zona Heaster Shue's body. This was a very serious step in the late 19th century. Disturbing a grave was not something done lightly. It went against social and religious customs, but Preston believed it was necessary to uncover the truth. He needed physical evidence. He needed to know if Mary Jane's incredible story, or at least the part about the murder, was true. The order was given, and a team was assembled to perform the difficult task. On February 22, 1897, about a month after her burial, Zona's coffin was brought up from the frozen ground. An autopsy was to be performed in the local one-room schoolhouse. A group of doctors, led by Dr. Knapp, gathered to conduct the examination. Erasmus Shue was legally required to be present, and he complained loudly. He said he knew he would be arrested, but that they would not be able to prove he did it. His arrogance did little to help his case. As the coroners began their work, a tense silence fell over the small room. The truth of what happened to Zona was about to be revealed. The autopsy quickly uncovered damning evidence. When the doctors examined Zona's neck, they found exactly what her ghost had claimed. Her neck was broken. The first and second vertebrae were dislocated. Her windpipe was crushed, showing signs of manual strangulation. There were also finger marks bruised into her skin, evidence that she had been violently choked. The high-necked dress and the scarf that Erasmus had insisted she wear were clearly meant to hide these marks. The everlasting faint was a lie. Zona Heaster Shue had been brutally murdered. The physical evidence was undeniable. It perfectly matched the story that Mary Jane Heaster said she had received from her daughter's spirit. The ghost had told her the cause of death, and the autopsy had proven it to be true. The broken neck was the key. It was the secret that Erasmus Shue had tried so desperately to bury with his wife. But now, the secret was out. Based on the conclusive findings of the autopsy, Erasmus Stribling Trout Shue was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife Zona. The ghost's quest for justice had led to a killer's capture. The trial of Erasmus Shue began in the summer of 1897. It quickly became the most talked-about case in the history of Greenbrier County. The courtroom was packed every day with curious townspeople. They were there to see the man accused of such a terrible crime, but they were also there because of the rumors. Everyone had heard the story of Zona's ghost. They whispered about how Mary Jane Heaster had learned the truth from her daughter's spirit. The case was no longer just a murder trial, it was a trial that seemed to touch the supernatural world. The prosecution, led by John Preston, built a strong case based on the physical evidence. They presented the findings of the autopsy. The doctors testified about the broken neck, the crushed windpipe, and the bruises. They explained how these injuries could not have been caused by a fall or any other accident. This was clear evidence of a violent struggle and strangulation. The prosecution also brought forward witnesses who testified about Shue's strange and controlling behavior after Zona's death. They painted a picture of a guilty man trying to cover his tracks from the very beginning. The most remarkable part of the trial came when the defense team called Mary Jane Heaster to the witness stand. They likely intended to discredit her. They wanted to show the jury that her claims were based on nothing more than dreams and superstitions. They asked her directly about the ghost story, hoping to make her look foolish and unreliable. but their plan backfired. Mary Jane remained calm and unshaken. She told the court with complete sincerity everything that her daughter's ghost had revealed to her. She did not waver in her testimony, even under intense questioning. Amazingly, the judge allowed her testimony to stand. The story of the ghost was officially entered into the court record. This is the only known case in American legal history where testimony from a ghost was accepted and led to a conviction. The jury listened to all the evidence, both the scientific and the supernatural. The combination was powerful. Mary Jane's story explained how the investigation started, and the autopsy provided the proof. On July 11, 1897, the jury found Erasmus Shue guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice, guided by a voice from beyond the grave, had been served. With the guilty verdict, Erasmus Shue's dark past was finally brought into the light. His life of deception and violence was over. He was sent to the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville to serve his life sentence. The charming blacksmith who had fooled a whole town was now just another prisoner behind stone walls. While in prison, he never admitted to killing Zona. He maintained his innocence, but few believed him. He reportedly told others that he had wanted to be the seventh man to be hanged in their county, but his wish was not granted. Erasmus Shue did not live a long life in prison. Just 3 years after his conviction on March 13, 1900, he died. He was a victim of an epidemic that swept through the penitentiary. His death marked the final chapter in the earthly part of this strange tale. The man who had taken Zona's life was now gone himself. With his death, the threat he posed was extinguished forever. The community of Greenbrier County could finally close the book on the tragedy that had shaken their quiet corner of the world. The story of Erasmus Shue became a cautionary tale about the evil that can hide behind a pleasant face. After the trial, Mary Jane Heaster could finally grieve for her daughter in peace. She had done what she set out to do. She had honored Zona's memory by fighting for the truth. Her incredible persistence, fueled by a mother's love and a ghost's message, had brought a killer to justice. According to Mary Jane, once the verdict was delivered, the ghost of Zona never appeared to her again. It seemed that her spirit's work was done. Her restless soul had found its peace. She had returned not to haunt the living, but to ensure that her killer would be held accountable for his crime. A historical marker was eventually placed near the cemetery where Zona is buried. It tells the brief, incredible story of the Greenbrier ghost. It commemorates the strange events that led to the only case in United States history where a murderer was convicted based on the testimony of his victim's ghost. Zona Heaster Shue's grave is now a place of historical interest. Visitors come to see the final resting place of the young woman whose spirit was so strong that not even death could silence her. Her story is a permanent part of West Virginia's unique folklore and history. The tale of the Greenbrier ghost is powerful because it is a story of justice, not revenge. Zona's spirit did not return to haunt her killer or to seek vengeance in a violent way. Instead, her ghost worked through the proper channels of human society. She appeared to the one person she knew would believe her and fight for her, her mother. Her message was not one of hate, but one of truth. She simply wanted the facts of her death to be known so that the legal system could do its work. This makes her story unique among ghost tales, which often focus on frightening hauntings and retribution. Zona's story endures because it touches on deep human themes. It speaks to the unbreakable bond between a mother and a child, a love so strong it can seemingly cross the barrier of death. It explores the idea that truth will eventually come to light no matter how deeply it is buried, and it challenges our understanding of the world, suggesting that there are mysteries beyond the reach of our everyday senses. The story forces us to ask questions. Was it truly a ghost? Or was it a mother's intuition so powerful that it manifested as a vivid guiding dream? In the end, the result was the same. The legacy of Zona Heaster Shue is a testament to the power of a single voice standing up for the truth, even when that voice comes from an unbelievable source. Mary Jane Heaster's courage in sharing her story, and prosecutor John Preston's willingness to listen, were just as crucial as the ghostly visitations themselves. Their actions show that justice requires both conviction and an open mind. The case reminds us that sometimes the path to truth is not straightforward. It can be strange, winding, and can lead us to places we never expected. Ultimately, the story of the Greenbrier ghost is a story of hope. It suggests that even in the face of terrible tragedy, justice can prevail. It tells us that a life, no matter how humble or short, has value. and that sometimes a plea for help can be heard, even when it is just a whisper from another world. Zona's spirit did not rest until the truth was told. Her tale has become a timeless piece of American folklore, a chilling and inspiring reminder that love is stronger than death, and the truth cannot be silenced forever.